How much protein should I eat per day? Does the type of protein I eat even matter? How much protein should I eat per meal? What is better, plant or animal protein? Is whey protein good for me? What about other powdered proteins like pea protein instead of whey protein? Is that a better choice? These are all the questions I get on a regular basis, and on today's podcast, I'm going to answer every single one of these questions. Welcome to the Foundational Health Podcast, where we provide education and inspiration to help guide you on your journey to look better, feel better, and most importantly, heal better. Hello, and welcome to the Foundational Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Kevin Schultz, and today we're going to talk about the ins and outs of protein. So first, let's start with this. All proteins are not created equal. Protein is not just protein. The source, the quality, all of that matters. Different proteins, we know once they are digested and absorbed, because that's really what it's all about with anything nutrition-based, it's how your body digests and absorbs it. We know that with different proteins, once they're digested and absorbed, they provide our bodies with different amounts of usable protein. Can't stress that part enough. This is where protein, it's so misleading with a lot of the information out there. Different proteins have different usable amounts. So you can't just look at like, oh, that's 30 grams of protein and that's 30 grams of protein. It's the usable amount. So for example, if I consume 1 gram of whey protein, the body does not receive the same amount of usable protein, not in any way, shape, or form. It doesn't receive the same amount of usable protein to build new muscle and bone as it does from 1 gram of protein from something like a whole egg. Very, very different. And that's what we're going to dive into today, so you have a full understanding of that. And as a result, can then make better choices when it comes to your protein needs or requirements on a daily basis. So to have this all make more sense, let's talk about what proteins are. A protein is just simply a molecule which is made up of smaller molecules, and this is also hugely important. Those smaller molecules, those building blocks of protein, are called amino acids. So most people have probably heard that term. And there are about 500 different known amino acids, but only about 20 of those are actually used in the human body to make protein, and then 9 of those are called essential amino acids. I will address this just for the few people out there that question this on a regular basis. There are 9 essential amino acids if you look at all the literature. But what we now know from new science is really, truly 8 of those only are essential. And the reason for that is when you get those 8, the body does produce that 9th one. So it gets kind of confusing sometimes where you see 9 essential amino acids, 8 essential amino acids, and that's the reason why. This next point is hugely, hugely important to understand when it comes to the protein discussion. The structure of your body is made up of amino acids. And again, those amino acids are the building blocks of protein, the molecules within protein. That means, when we talk about the structure of your body, it means the muscle, the bone, the nerves, the tendons, the ligaments, your organs, your skin, the cells, even 2/3 of your hormones, all the way down to your enzymes, which are tiny chemicals that cause various chemical reactions inside your body. All of those things are made from amino acids. So having low amino acid levels truly does affect the body in countless ways. I can't overstate that. I can't possibly mention all of the things it affects because it affects every single area of your body if you're low in those amino acids, and you're low in amino acids if you're not getting the right amounts of protein every single day. So when you look at amino acids and you look at how they work in the body and the importance of them, it's a perfect example of why a whole food, well-rounded, God food diet is so important. So for the body to function properly and then to utilize amino acids to the fullest, you need healthy, quality fat intake. So this is why, again, whole food diet is so important. You can't just say like, oh, proteins are great for me. They're the building blocks. So I'm going to focus on just eating protein. We know that those proteins and amino acids cannot work the way that they're supposed to without a healthy, high quality fat intake. We know that those amino acids can't work the way they're supposed to without low quantity, but high quality carbohydrate intake. So let's repeat that. Low quantity, but high quality carbohydrate intake. What that means is that you cannot eat high quantity carbohydrates from bad sources and expect your amino acids and protein to get used by the body the way that it's supposed to. So if you're eating the standard American diet, which sadly most people are, that standard American diet loaded with oatmeal and bagels and breads, like you just keep eating more of those things because you want to get your carbs in or because you're addicted to them, we know that when you do that, your body cannot use the protein and cannot use those amino acids the way that it's supposed to. So when it comes to carbohydrates, it needs to be low quantity, high quality, and low quantity, high quality, fruits and vegetables. So without a doubt, fruits and vegetables are the best, and you need many different daily vitamins and minerals as part of this process to absorb and utilize amino acids as well. And that is where things like fruits and vegetables come in, as well as a whole food balanced diet with healthy fats, healthy proteins, because all of those different things are going to give you different vitamins and minerals. And then we know that one of the most important ones is something called B12, and the natural form of B12, which is a methylated methylcobalamin, as opposed to something like cyanocobalamin, which is a synthetic form that you'll find in most supermarket multivitamins. So it needs to be a methylated B12, like you'll find in Nutridyne's multivitamin, also in Nutridyne's B complex, and many of their others, because they are a high quality company, which is the reason that I recommend them. So you need all of those things as well as a healthy digestive system. If your digestive, you could do all of those things and your digestive system is off, your digestive system is inflamed, it's not allowing you to absorb things, and then also you're not going to be able to utilize those proteins and amino acids for building the structure of your body, because that's what they do. So your healthy digestive system, this is one of the reasons that if you go back a few podcasts, I recommend start with the gut when you're trying to change your health. We have a Start with the Gut 60-day gut healing protocol on our website, but at a bare minimum, do things like a spore-based probiotic, which is one of the foundational 4 supplements that I recommend. So the next topic that we're going to move on to is what happens to protein once it's digested and absorbed. So we just talked about all the things that are necessary and required for you to digest and absorb it and the importance of it, but what happens once a protein is digested and absorbed? So when a protein is digested and absorbed and used in your body, first of all, it's in a completely different form than what it was when it came into your body. In fact, did you know, and most people don't, that besides simple table sugar, so simple white sugar, there is nothing we consume that is used by our bodies in the same form. I find that fascinating. So that means if you eat an apple, those nutrients from the apple, it's not like your body is just absorbing those nutrients in that same form. If you eat a steak, if you eat fats, no matter what you eat, your body changes it into a usable form. So macronutrients like carbs, fats, proteins, as well as micronutrients, they go through a process like methylation, which is why methylated multivitamins and methylated supplements are so hugely important, because some people can't methylate things properly. So they go through a process like methylation, which fully breaks down those macro or micronutrients and fully rebuilds them into a usable form for whatever the body needs at that given time. To have that really hit home, you do not have egg or whey protein molecules in your muscles. You do not have collagen molecules in your skin, bones, and hair. The body changes those into a usable form. That's a very important point to understand. So this process takes place in your digestive system. starting with your stomach acids, and then the amino acids, for example, are absorbed through the walls of your small intestine, where they pass through your liver and then are released into your bloodstream, where they're then transported and absorbed by individual cells and turned into new proteins that are the exact type of protein needed by that cell, whether it's a bone, a muscle, a nerve, a ligament, a tendon. It's changed by the body, transported through your blood in the exact type of protein needed by that cell at that given time. Probably don't need to understand that entire process, but I think it's important, not only from the standpoint of why we need to focus on quality and quantity of protein, but also just fascinating the way that God created our body to do what it is intended to do when we give it the right nutrients and building blocks in the first place. So let's talk about essential versus non-essential just a little bit. There's two main types of amino acids of those 20 that your body uses, and those are the essential amino acids and the non-essential amino acids. So if you listen to my supplement podcast, you maybe remember that essential simply means something the body cannot make on its own, versus non-essential, which means the body can make it, so it's not essential to eat it. So the essential ones mean they are essential to eat in the form of food or supplement. So here's the tricky part of that, though, when it comes to amino acids. You need the essential amino acids to make the non-essential amino acids. But even more importantly, you need all of the essential amino acids to make any single protein that your body needs, whether it's a protein for muscle, protein for bone, protein for any other structure in the body, including nerves for that matter, in your brain. If that protein is missing some of those essential amino acids, even one amino acid, it cannot make the new protein. It doesn't mean like, well, it just doesn't make it as well, or it makes it less of it. It cannot make it if it's missing one of those amino acids. We know this from study after legitimate study. And this is why I am not a fan of branched chain amino acids. So I get Facebook messages and I get questions from people all the time, like, what about branched chain amino acids? They call them BCAAs in the workout supplement world. Do you think branched chain are better than essential amino acids, or why are you not a fan of branched chain amino acids? This is why. The reason I am not a fan of branched chain amino acids in any way, shape, or form is that they contain 3 of the 8 or 9, it's really 8 essential amino acids. And the claim is from the branched chain amino acid companies that started long ago before science could prove what we now know. The claim is that they help you build new protein, but that's based on very old science. It's been proven wrong countless times, and it is physically impossible for a branched chain amino acid to build new protein in your body. Another very important thing to understand is the body doesn't just need each of these essential amino acids. So we know now, if you've been following along and listening, we know now that you need all of these essential amino acids in order to build protein, all 8 of them. You need them, but you not only need them, but you need them in the exact ratio for the body to build protein. And that is where the different types of protein and the importance of different types of protein comes in, because we not only need essential amino acids, but we need them in the right ratios in order to build protein, to feed our muscles, to feed our bones, and all of the other important structures of our body. So proteins like whey, pea, soy, meats, eggs, are all considered complete proteins. Most people have heard that terminology before. A complete protein means that it contains all of the essential amino acids, but the essential amino acids, again, need to be in the right ratio. And all of those proteins that I just mentioned, all of those complete proteins, contain amino acids in different ratios. So that's hugely important. Yes, they're all complete proteins, but they contain those complete proteins, which is, again, the essential amino acids, in different ratios. So how much usable protein your body can make from the food that you eat or the supplement that you take comes down to the ratio of the essential amino acids in that food or supplement protein source. So for example, whey protein is absolutely a complete protein and it has all of the essential amino acids. But it only has 18% of those essential amino acids in the correct ratio to make new protein. 18%. So that means the other 82% are essential amino acids that are in excess of the correct ratio, or they're non-essential amino acids. And then as a result of that, you only use 18% of the whey protein you consume to make muscle protein. The other 82%, because it's excess and your body cannot store it. So that's important. It's not like that excess just gets stored to be used later and make protein later or to make muscle later. That's not the way that it works. Because it's excess and your body cannot store it to make protein later, it has to be used somehow. And this is where calories come in. So this is not a podcast on calories. I'm just going to touch on it really shortly because it is such a hugely misunderstood concept by almost everyone in the health and wellness world. Let me repeat that. The excess protein from something like whey, which is 82% of it is excess, is not in a usable form. It doesn't get stored, and that's where calories come in. So protein is said to have 4 calories per gram, but what you aren't told is those calories are potential calories, not actual calories. And that is why I've said this many times, and I will keep repeating it until people actually listen and look at the science. That is why the whole calories in, calories out mantra that is repeated over and over by personal trainers and nutritionists and just people in general, as simple as calories in, calories out, calories in, calories out. That whole mantra is literally complete BS when you understand the physiological process of the body. Calories in food is simply a measurement that takes place outside the body. So most people don't know this. It's not like they're measuring calories within the body. Calories are measured outside of the body in a device called a calorimeter, where they burn food to see how much energy that it produces. And that same measurement does not apply inside the body. That's not the way anything works. Just like we talked about with nutrients, when you put it in your body, it's used in a different form completely than outside of the body. Same thing applies to calories. So how proteins are utilized is a perfect example. So if you look at eggs only have 2 calories per gram compared to what we're told they have 4. And whey has actually about 3.2 and not 4. So the reason for that eggs have 2 calories that actually affect the body is because approximately 50% of the egg is a usable protein source as opposed to 18% of whey. So as a result, eggs have 2 calories per gram of protein and whey protein has actually 3.2. Neither one of them have 4 calories. Really hitting on that topic because it is not as simple as calories in, calories out. You will never, ever convince me or anybody that understands this science that the calories of Fruit Loops are the same as the calories of eating a whole pasture-raised egg. Calories in is not calories out. It's the quality of the food that matters. So this is why I use a supplement called Perfect Amino for part of my protein intake. You'll understand that a little bit more. And then I eat whole foods instead of consuming whey protein on a regular basis. Doesn't mean I don't consume whey protein. I'll explain that a little bit more. But whey is a poorly utilized protein. And the excess in whey protein, especially when it's a low quality source, is converted to sugar. It's not, again, stored by the body and used later. It's converted to sugar, that 82% excess, converted to sugar, and much of it is stored as fat. It also causes, we know, digestive and gut issues in many people. And that's not just because it gets chalked up often to dairy allergies, and that's usually not the case. It's because of all of this excess that gets converted to sugar. So it causes digestive and gut issues. It causes weight gain for so many people that think that they're doing themselves a huge favor by drinking their whey protein shake and cutting out other poor quality foods. A lot of times it's actually creating weight gain, it creates bloating in many people, and it creates inflammation throughout the body because that's what excess sugar does. So if you're going to use whey protein, like I sometimes do, I probably have, I would say on average, 2 servings a week. Quality is everything. So you got to make sure you're getting a great quality whey protein source from something like grass-fed cattle, without fillers, without added sugars, without artificial flavorings. Nutridyne on our website has a grass-fed protein that is great if you're looking to get it from cows. I personally, the one that I use, and we don't have this on our website, I have no relationship with this company, but I use something called Naked Whey, and it is from grass-fed, regenerative farmed goat. So it is a goat whey protein, which means it's an A2 casein, so less issues with any potential dairy allergies. Plus it's just a fantastic, literally whey protein without any additives. I will warn you, it's a little more expensive and it is an acquired taste. But that is the one that I use when I use it, and because of that acquired taste, I just add my Element raspberry electrolytes that flavor it, and then I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, 1 serving of this Perfect Amino supplement that I mentioned is equivalent to 1 30-gram scoop of whey, but this is the reason that I'm a huge fan of using Perfect Aminos instead of whey on a daily basis, is the Perfect Aminos comes without all of the nasty side effects that I mentioned, and it has 0 caloric effect. So there are 0 calories in that, which means it won't break a fast. So let's take a look at utilization rates, because that is a huge missing part of the discussion when it comes to protein. Utilization meaning how your body uses it. So if you look at that Perfect Amino supplement that I'm a huge fan of, 99% of what you take in is utilized. So there's 1% excess approximately, according to and these are some really legitimate studies. I'm not going to go into the science, but they do it through urinalysis and how much nitrogen the body gets rid of with the protein. It's a pretty complex process where they look at these utilization rates. Perfect Amino supplement has a 99% utilization rate. Eggs have a 48% utilization rate. That is the number 1 food in nature, with the exception of a mother's breast milk, which is around 50%. But eggs have a 48% utilization rate. It's the highest among food. And then if you look at things like meat, poultry, fish, I should say red meat, poultry, and fish, it's about a 32% utilization rate. And then we get down to things like whey protein, nuts, dairy, those are around 18%. And then things like soy and pea proteins are around 16%. Branched chain amino acids come in at a whopping 1%. 1% of that branched chain amino acid will actually be used in the form of protein to build muscle and bone and other structure in your body. So now with all of that information in mind, let's go back to those questions that I started the podcast with. How much protein should I eat per day? Well, it depends on things like your goals and your weight, but I would recommend eating 1 to 1.25 grams per day per pound of ideal body weight. The ideal body weight is hugely important. Clearly, if you're 400 pounds, you don't want to try to consume 400 grams of protein on a daily basis. So somewhere near your ideal body weight, and you don't need to know exactly what that is, but if you think, well, my ideal body weight is probably 200, well, that's what you should be shooting for. 1 to 1.25 grams per day of ideal body weight. A minimum of 1 is highly recommended, especially as we age and lose muscle and bone, unless, of course, you're actively trying to keep it, because that is not an inevitable process. If you're actively trying to keep it and build it, then you don't have to lose it at those same rates or even at all for that matter. So for me personally, I'm actively trying to gain muscle as I age and trying to gain bone as I age. So I shoot for 1.5 grams per pound per day, but I also take like 3 to 4 servings of Perfect Aminos per day, so I'm not having to get that all from foods, and I can keep my calories where I want them to approximately in a day, even though I do not count calories at any point ever. I never have, and I'm pretty convinced that I never will. I think it's an unhealthy habit for the majority of people. I really focus on high quality protein and high utilization rates of protein like eggs and red meats, as well as those Perfect Aminos. The next question, does the type of protein I eat even matter? So hopefully with everything that we've talked about, you understand the importance of different types of protein, but also what we didn't discuss, which quality is everything. So you want to seek out high quality whole food protein sources always. Grass-fed red meats, pasture-raised poultry, pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught Alaskan sockeye salmon. Those are all hugely important, avoiding the grain-fed inflammatory proteins, which not only are not absorbed in the same rate, but let's say for argument's sake that they contain a ton of toxins and they also create inflammation throughout your body, which is the opposite of what you want. It's not let's just eat protein to eat protein. You want to eat protein to make your body healthier over time. If your only goal is to add muscle and you don't care about inflammatory process and wearing out joints and other structural integrity over time, then protein quality doesn't matter. But if you do care about those things, quality is everything. The next question, how much protein should I eat per meal? This really is the same answer as the per day discussion, just broken down per meal. But I can tell you, it becomes very difficult if you're that one meal a day type person, which so many people are for some reason, but it becomes very difficult to get your protein needs in if you're eating 1 or even 2 meals in a day, which is why I'm a big fan of getting 3 meals a day with your protein needs divided evenly between meals, and then also getting extra protein throughout the day when you wake or right before a workout. Those are my preferences from things like Perfect Amino acids. The reason for right when you wake is because you don't have to break a fast. You can actually get protein in because your body is craving it at that point after going those 8-10 hours of sleep without any protein. Your body is craving it. And so as a result, getting those Perfect Aminos right when you wake, I personally do a couple of servings. I don't think I mentioned this, but those Perfect Aminos are made from a company called Body Health. You can find that under our Shop Now section of the foundationalhealth365.com website. So I get those things first thing when I wake, a couple of servings, and then on a workout day, so for me that's 6 days a week, then I also take 1 or 2 servings going into that workout. You don't have to do that. You can take as little as 1 a day if cost is a concern, but I would recommend if you're doing 1 a day or 2 a day that you're doing it first thing when you wake. That is the most important time to take them. So with Perfect Aminos, there is, again, no caloric intake, and it will not break a fast, and that is why I do it in the morning. It's why I do it, especially before a workout on the weekend if I'm going into that workout fasted, and I want to focus on building muscle, but also burning more fat during that workout. The next question that I talked about in the beginning, which is better, plant or animal protein? This really isn't debatable in my opinion. If you look at the science and you take the biases out of it, which I understand is hard to do, and I also understand I have biases, but animal protein is superior for many reasons, but that doesn't mean that you can't get good quality protein from plant sources. And believe it or not, Perfect Aminos are 100% plant-based. There's no animal protein in there, but it has all of those amino acids in the exact ratio, and that is why your body utilizes it at 99%. So if you're not getting animal proteins, you just really need to focus more on those things that we talked about because they're considerably more important, utilization rate that is, and doing things like Perfect Aminos if you're choosing to be a vegan or a vegetarian, and also because you're missing out on important things like B vitamins if you're a vegan or a vegetarian. So I highly recommend taking a methylated B complex vitamin if you're that type of person. We also have that on our website under the Shop Now and Nutridyne tab. Those things are hugely important to make sure you're not missing out on all of those key nutrients, which are building blocks for the structure of your body. Okay, so with all of the knowledge that you've gained, hopefully, from this podcast today, hopefully you can see why types and quality of protein is so important when it comes to our overall health, as well as the quantity of the protein. And whether or not you're giving the body the best chance to build muscle, to build bone. If you listen to my osteoporosis podcast, you know that the structure of bone is 50% protein. So I don't want to make this all about muscle by any means. So hopefully I've gotten that across today. But bone is a huge, huge part as well. 50% of your bone structure is protein, and so many or other important structures throughout the body that we've talked about. So to wrap this all up and to make sure it really hits home, let's look at two different type of people who both weigh 150 pounds and are following that 1 gram a day recommendation. So they're focusing on 150 grams of protein in a day. So person A is getting all 150 grams of protein from things like soy, pea, nuts, dairy, whey proteins. And if you remember, those have all in that 16 to 80% utilization rate. So with the knowledge you gained today, you should know that 150 grams of those protein breaks down, because of that 16 to 18% utilization rate, into 27 grams of usable protein, because approximately, again, 16 to 8% of those proteins are usable for things like muscle, bone, ligaments, all of the other structures of the body. So you consumed 150 grams of protein, 27 of it is being used for structure in the body. Now let's look at person B. Person B is eating 150 grams of protein per day. And let's say that 40 of those grams are coming from eggs. 95 of those grams are coming from red meat, fish, and poultry. Big fan of all of those. Proteins, just like fruits and vegetables, contain different nutrients, different vitamins. So it really is important to have a mix, in my opinion. So you got 40 grams from eggs, 95 grams from meats, and 15 grams from a Perfect Amino supplement. And that 15 grams would be 3 servings of Perfect Aminos in a day. So all of that, the 40, 95, the 15 adds up again to 150. So both people are consuming 150. Person A, 27 grams of usable protein. But for person B, if you add all those up, the 40 grams of eggs equates to 19.2 grams of usable protein. The 95 grams of protein from red meat, 30.4 is usable. And of the 15 grams from Perfect Aminos, 100% is usable. So another 15 grams there. So while both person A and person B are both eating 150 grams of protein daily, person A, 27 grams that are usable for muscle and bone, and person B has 65 grams. That's 2.5 times more usable protein every single day. And if you remember from the beginning, and I've repeated it multiple times, amino acids from proteins are the building blocks of your muscle, your bone, your nerves, your tendons, your ligaments, your organs, your skin, your cells, 2/3 of your hormones, even all the way down to your enzymes. So who do you think has a better chance of keeping all of those things I just mentioned healthier as they age? I think the answer is pretty obvious there, and that is why this protein discussion is so hugely important, and I believe hugely misunderstood, which is exactly why we are addressing it today, to hopefully shed some light and bring some clarity. So here are your inspirational and educational takeaways for the day. Number 1, success. Simple habits performed daily over time. Don't get overwhelmed. Just incorporate simple habits daily over time. Be consistent, and you will be successful with your health goals. Number 2, Build your meals around protein and make it high quality protein with high utilization rates instead of low quality powdered and processed whey and pea proteins. Number 3, break all fasts with protein and ideally Perfect Aminos, especially upon waking. And I probably didn't touch on that enough. When I say break a fast, so you're not even breaking a fast in the morning when you're taking the Perfect Aminos, but breakfast, which means break fast, is the meal where once you eat that breakfast, whether it's at 7 a.m. or for me personally, I do something called intermittent fasting daily. I eat typically around 11 a.m. I'm always breaking that fast with protein. Typically it's eggs for me, but if it's not eggs, then it's a different form of meat. That is how I break all of my fasts. That's hugely important when it comes to breaking a fast at any point during the day, whether it's a short term or long term. Number 4, you are a leader. So if you enjoyed today's podcast and found it beneficial, I want you to think about who needs to hear this message about protein. Drop them a text and tell them to check out the Foundational Health Podcast with Dr. Kevin Schultz, episode number 13. Until next time, make health your hobby. Thank you for listening to the Foundational Health Podcast. As always, if you would like to learn more about making health your hobby, visit our website at foundationalhealth365.com and follow me on Facebook at Kevin Schultz DC Foundational Health.